Yo, 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 another guitar lesson here. We're going to keep on that theory train here. So we've done step 1, learn the notes. Step 2, learn the major scale. Step 3, we're going to take a look at chords. And now just to let you know, each one of these steps, you should take your time and invest a lot of time and energy into those. The more you can solidify your understanding of each step, the better. And especially with the major scale, that's something that you just kind of should be studying on and off for a long time. And then the chords. So the chords is another way to we're just kind of going to just see where they come into play. The chords actually are born out of the major scale. So this is why I've mentioned before, it's comprehensive. Everything's very comprehensive. So if you started studying chords before scales, you would just be asking yourself, why are we using these notes? Why do these notes sound good? And the answer is because they come from the major scale, which we have already talked about in a previous lesson. I'll put that in the description if you want to check that out. And so we'll just take a look at how this works in C major, just to start with. Now, this works in all keys, all 12 keys, because they're all the same formula. So just know that the first, the same kind of formula, the same chords come out of every key. So we've got C major scale, we've got our notes here, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, okay? So the first note, the way we basically build chords is we're just gonna stack thirds, and a third is just a distance, which would be every third note in the scale. So you go from the first to the third note, E, and then you go from the third to the fifth note, G. Another way to look at it is you just skip every other note in the scale. And once you get to the third note, you've got a triad. Okay? So if we start on the first note, we get C major. Okay? And you can see that in your C major chord. If you drop your first finger down, we got C, E, G, and then another C and another E. If you want to keep going, you got G down there. Right? And so not quite 2 octaves there, because it's only on 5 strings, but you get the idea. So that's the first chord. And so then the second chord, we simply start on the second note. You've got D, F, A. Now this produces a minor chord, and it has to do with the distance between the notes. The distance between the second and the fourth note in the scale is shorter than the distance between the first and the third note in the scale. This is what gives you a minor chord, and that would be something we can talk about later in a different lesson, especially if you have questions about it, let me know. But this lesson specifically is just giving you a basic understanding of where the chords are coming from. So, C major chord comes out from the first note of the scale, D minor from the second. Now if we do the same thing with E minor, which is the third note in the scale, E, we got E, E, G, B. And again, we're just skipping notes. So then you end up with an E minor chord. And then the fourth note is F, A, C. This produces a major chord. When we start on the fifth note of the scale, G, B, D, it produces another major chord. When we start on the sixth note of the scale, A, C, E produces a minor chord. And then if we start on the seventh note of the scale, B, D, F, that's going to give us this diminished chord, okay? So if you break it down, you've got 3 major, 3 minor, and then 1 diminished. The diminished chord is not utilized much in popular music, but it is a chord available nonetheless, and It is definitely shows up in jazz music a lot. It shows up in all kinds of different songs. But it's just a little harder to incorporate at first when you're learning how to write music. It's just a little more advanced, harmonically speaking, to get it to find its place. But nonetheless, here we've got these 3 major chords, 3 minor chords. So the major chords, you might have heard a 1, 4, 5 progression. That's because they're built off the first note, fourth note, and fifth note. Okay? 2, 5, 1 would be D minor, second chord, G major is the 5, and then 1 C. Okay? And now it's also good to know that every major key, as long as this is a major key, the first chord, the 1 chord, is major, the 2 chords minor, the 3 chords minor, 4 major, 5 major, 6 minor, 7 diminished. It's the same in every major key. This is why a lot of times musicians will say, if you're like gonna jam with somebody and you might say, well, can you tell me the chords? What's going on here harmonically? And they may say, well, we're in the key of C, and it's a 2, 6, 5, 1 progression. Oh, 2, 6, 5, 1 in C. Okay, well, D's the 2, A minor's the 6, G's the 5, C's the 1. Okay. Now, if you're a little new to the terminology, you may then inquire, well, can you tell me what those chords are? If you don't know off the top of your head, then they would say D minor. Oh, let's see, that's a D minor, A minor, G, and C, right? And the reason they're referring to them as the numbers is because it's easier to hear the number, because the numbers show up in every key. For example, if it was a 2, what I do? 2, 6, 5, 1 in A. 2, 6, 5, 1. That's the same relationship as in C. 2, 6, 5, 1. It's just all the notes are moved, but they're moved in the same way. Okay? The same relationship. So anyway, this is just kind of a starter lesson as far as where the chords are coming from, and understanding that, this is the basic workings of music harmony, and this is just getting you started down that music theory path. And I'm hoping this stuff helps. If you have any questions, hit me up. Peace.